If acceptable to everyone, I'd like to have Janita's report for review of complaints or correspondence in that regard.
Sure, Mr. Chairman.
We have 6 on the list this month.
Yep, 6 closed. We for the time frame, January 1st, 2026 through February 28th, 2022, for the 2-month time frame that I do the reports for, we took in 3 brand new complaints, either engineering or land surveying. So we have 3 new complaints and 6 were closed. If legal closed it, I would note that legal closed it. I believe where it says settlement agreement, I missed adding legal closed that one to contact legal. So the first 2 files had gone up with a report to legal, and legal took action on it. The next 4 were handled by the special investigator and investigated it. 2 were closed as civil matter dispute of facts. 1 was closed as no action, no violation. And the other one was closed. Mediation was successful. The respondent finally sent all the documentation that the complainant was stating that they had not received. So all the paperwork that the complainant was looking for, they received, and the case was closed as mediation was successful. So it was resolved. Are there any questions, Mr.
Nope.
Chairman,
Not for me.
from any of your members?
I'm
I don't
good.
have any.
I'm good.
All right. Janita, thank you for the report.
You're welcome. And one quick thing, Mr. Chairman, next month, because you meet every month, there will not be an investigations report for land surveyors and engineers, because I run all my board and commission reports in 2-month timeframes. So the report for next month would be this exact same report. So.
All right. Appreciate
it. Thank you all. Have a great day.
You
Okay,
too.
thank you. I think the next item on our agenda could be the review of the February 10th minutes. Does anybody have any comments or recommendations, edits to be made? If not, is there a motion to accept them as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Robert. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Bob. All those in favor of the motion to accept the minutes of February 10th as presented, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Hearing
I
none, that motion
abstain.
carries.
Since there were no LS candidates.
That leads us to our land surveying items, which I can grab my notes on. Bear with me for a moment. Okay. We had 4 land surveying applicants this month. First one was Albin Marte, permit class 6A exam credit part 1. Ryan Thompson had indicated his approval or a motion to approve, so I'll let that be on part of the record. Is there a motion from one of the members present to approve Elbin Marte for Class 6A Credit Part 1.
I'll make the motion, but I do want to caveat with Elvin works for us part-time from time to time, so I'm going to recuse myself from voting. So if it's inappropriate for me to make the motion, then I won't make the motion because I'm going to recuse myself from the vote.
As chairman, I would say, and I have said in the past many times, that if you're a member of the board and you are aware of the applicant, I think you have an obligation or responsibility to participate. I see no reason for a
Okay.
member to recuse.
Then I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you.
I second it.
Thank you, Susan. And Ryan Thompson had indicated his support for the approval. So all those in favor of the motion to approve Elvin Marte for Class 6A Exam Credit Part 1, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Then we had 3 new applications for Class 8 exam for Joseph McGee, Mikhail Mizuski, and Ethan Elkey. Again, Ryan Thompson, absent today, had reviewed them carefully and indicated his support for approval of all 3.
I make a motion to approve all 3.
Second.
Thank you, Robert. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve McGee, Mizuski, and Elkey for Class 8 exam, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none, that motion carries. And I believe that was the extent of our land surveying applicant for this month. In the,
Tony, can
yeah.
I raise one question
Yes,
before
sir.
we leave land surveying? I had sent a question that was forwarded to me by Cal's from a licensed surveyor who, I believe the gist of what he was saying was that he's been told that if you prepare, sign, and seal a plan, you have to keep in your records a copy of the signed and sealed plan, signed and sealed. Now, I can find in the statutes where you're required to keep a copy of the survey, but I don't see that it says that the copy you keep has to be signed and sealed. It's got to be a copy of the one that you did sign and seal. But does anybody know anywhere where it specifically says that your records have to have a signed and sealed copy in it?
Our office did a little research too and came up with basically the same conclusion that you did.
Okay.
And the discussion proceeded on to just, again, common sense.
Yeah.
If your firm exists and you prepared a survey, then we assume that you have access to it. But there are cases, and we certainly have experienced them, and many other firms have also, that the applicant or the licensee who signed the original survey is deceased. So it's really a rhetorical question.
Yeah. Well, this guy is not deceased. He's
Understood, but
he's alive and ticking and much younger than I am. So
yes, sir. But the idea is you have a record of what you produced. Whether or not it's signed and sealed is up to you, in my opinion, because there are instances where it doesn't matter whether it's signed and sealed. You're still responsible for it.
Yeah.
And if the licensee was a member of the firm who produced the survey, then the firm is responsible for it. The question might come up is, all right, that individual is no longer here to sign it. Someone else from the firm, do whatever diligence is necessary, can then sign the survey. You probably wouldn't be reissuing it. Again, it's a rhetorical question. Use common sense, in my opinion.
okay. So I'll provide this guy with
Correct. And I think
answer the answer
agree.
I had come up with, which you appear to be concurring with, and unless
Right.
there's a dissenting comment out here about it.
You found the evidence, you can pass it on. Here's what you
Yeah.
should have read. This is what indicates the obligation to keep your records. Okay?
Yep.
Is that sufficient?
Yep.
And I think that concludes our surveying business and our complaint overview and our minutes from last month, which brings us to our engineering applications. And
I would
we
love
will-
to stay on, Tony, but I'm going to leave because I've got a bunch of stuff that I have to.
Right. No need for you to remain. We appreciate your participation today. And we'll see you next month.
Thank you
Right.
all.
Have fun, all you engineers.
And that's April 21st. Yeah. Okay. So if we move through this agenda in accordance with our agenda, well, we're going to start with so I think we'll just go right into the regular agenda the way it's set up. So we have a consideration request for 3 applicants for reciprocity, class 4 license. The 3 applicants are Mormon, Asvolto, and Chauncey. I know we've all spent a lot of time reviewing these. We've had some discussions relative to our evaluation policy, and I think we should consider having a session dedicated, in my opinion, dedicated to resolving our issue that is associated with our past policy of evaluating credentials, whether it be experience or education, and the input from NCEES evaluation, not only of foreign degrees, but U.S. degrees that are combined with a science degree and a master's in a particular discipline. So before the end of the day, I think we should consider that and whether or not we want to have a special meeting or participation in discussing that evaluation process.
I would
That
say we
said-
do. I agree with Tony. I think we should have a meeting when we can all be available. Those of
And
us
have
that were
a
employees.
candid discussion of the pros and cons about how NCEES fits into this in their evaluation policy and the way we have been looking at our evaluation. So I do think it's important to do that. There may be a need today to continue some decisions until we resolve that. But let's go forward on the applications as they're in front of us and see what we can accomplish. So the first applicant is Mr. Gregory Mormon.
And he is present.
Excuse
Tony,
me? Yes.
if I could comment on Gregory, I reviewed Gregory's, and at the last meeting, he was in my group of class 4s, and I made a motion to approve the entire group. And then I had to go back and correct Gregory's. And because of the education being an architectural degree, it was not an architectural engineering degree. I don't have it in front of me right now, Gregory, but if I apologize for the confusion, it should not have been in my original motion to approve. I should have separated it out. And when I was talking about you, even John brought up the question if the architectural degree was an architectural engineering degree, and it is not. And that's why I recommended a no vote.
Right.
But
let's have that discussion all over again. In summary, this is a BS in architecture.
yes,
For Mr. Moorman, and then a master's in civil engineering. It was a, obviously tremendous experience since then. And with a master's in civil engineering, and let me just check on
Tony, you know what? One thing I did look is that I did look at his master's in engineering from the New Jersey Institute of
Yes.
Technology.
yes,
And, I guess the first 4 courses that he takes are actually in the School of Architecture, not the School of Engineering.
correct.
So basically there's economy of building, element in infrastructure planning, and I guess construction manager. Actually, there's 3 in the first semester, but they're all in the School of Architecture.
I
Or
looked
actually,
at-
two
Go
of
ahead.
them are in the School of Architecture, and one is in civil engineering. And then in the spring of 2007, he has special topics in computer applications, which is again architecture. And then he has project planning and control, which is civil engineering. But the thing is that there are no real basic engineering courses that he has taken when I look at his master's degree.
Did you
And
look
I
at
don't
the
know if John
undergraduate
can
degree?
confirm that.
I agree with Rich. There's one engineering course in the bachelor's, and there's approximately what I get is about 6 engineering courses in the master's for a total of 7, which comes nowhere near the 48 that even NCEES is looking for. So I think our original decision was correct.
I see Mr. Gregory Moorman is here.
Good morning.
I think we should have he should have an opportunity to present, a position that seems to be, which we seem to be contrary to. Greg, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone on the board. I appreciate
morning.
your time. I know you have a very busy schedule, so I'll try to be brief. I do appreciate the thoroughness that you're reviewing through everything. The reason why I had actually inquired with the board secretary to be able to speak with you is this is the first time I've ever run into any sort of conflict or issue with
We lost you, Greg.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you,
can.
Greg.
I
There
can.
you
Um, this is the first time I've ever had any sort of rebuttal on a licensing application. I am presently and actively licensed as a professional engineer and a registered architect in the states of New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania. I am also registered as an architect in the state of Connecticut. I'm also licensed as a professional engineer in the states of Georgia, Kentucky, and Utah. All of those states because I actively oversee construction projects or remediation projects that are ongoing in those states. I'm a principal and partner of an engineering company based out of Midtown Manhattan. So my day-to-day operation is I am a principal and designer, and I oversee about 40 staff members, which we focus primarily on demolition, new building construction, geotechnical engineering, foundation design, shoring, and emergency operations. And that's quite literally my everyday today work operation. So that's why at least I wanted to get an opportunity to speak with the board members, and reading the meeting minutes and already hearing your dialogue about the reconsideration or the discussions related to the NCES model law, which gives plenty of alternative bullet point provisions for the individual state boards to evaluate and discuss in terms of experience, knowledge base, education requirements, and all the things that go with licensing. So I do appreciate your time. If there is any particular questions that the board has, I'm more than happy to help answer and clarify.
See, Greg, that the issue before us is that for 25 years, we've had an established policy that there has to be an undergraduate degree in accordance with the NCAAS model law, which is an advisory. I recognize that. We recognize that advisory to all the licensing jurisdictions. But the feeling is that to be consistent with all the applicants that come before the board, the requirement to have the undergraduate engineering degree program, which provides the breadth of a general overview of the engineering discipline, should be the minimum competency. And what we're somewhat troubled with, speaking primarily for myself, is that should or when does extensive experience let's see, qualify or override the lack of the breadth at the undergraduate level. And we understand and appreciate the problem that it presents for individuals such as yourself that chose a path and evolved into another as time went on, and your experience has certainly been proven. So at this point, we're still in this position of maintaining consistency with the policy that was established upon advice from our legal section of the DCP, and it's been consistent for over 25 years. I don't know if anybody wants to add to that, John, Richard.
I don't see that many engineering courses, and that's what's really a concern. Sometimes there's a math situation similar to yours, but there's a lot of engineering courses that were taken following the undergraduate degree, not just the engineering courses required for a master's, but additional courses. But as I say, I only see 7 engineering courses that you've taken. And so there's no way to come anywhere near what we have done in the past when we have made an exception.
Right. So at the New Jersey Institute of Technology, several of the undergrad classes, even though they're identified under the BARC program, are heavy mathematics. And I was part of one of the first round of students actually at the university when they decided to build out a dual degree program, which allowed undergraduate students to begin taking graduate level courses while still at an undergrad level, to sort of consolidate the traditional model of a 4-year undergrad degree with a 2 to 4 postgraduate degree program. The 5-year BARC program already established at NJIT, which under the flip side of the coin for architectural practice, the BARC is sort of like the autopilot education background for becoming a licensed architect. Blending into the Master's of Civil Engineering degree there is where you see a lot of that initial 1 to 2 year overlap where I know is mentioned already with classes that are under or tagged as an architectural course while in the master's degree. That is that bleed over period that the university had put together for having this dual degree program and being able to take graduate level courses that counted for credits for both my undergraduate and graduate degrees up into a point of full transition beyond the 5-year BARC curriculum into the Master's CE curriculum and then obtaining my degree. So that's why you see a lot of that overlap, and you might not distinctly see dedicated courses strictly for engineering compared to courses strictly for architecture.
It looks like I have your transcript for your graduate degree. It looks like an interesting program, but I only see 6 engineering courses, and that is the concern.
Gregory, I have a question. I was looking at your transcript. Did I read it correctly in seeing you have 170 undergraduate credits and 30 graduate credits for a total of 200 credits?
I believe so. I have frankly, I've not looked at my transcript in a very, very long time. So yes, that sounds about right.
Okay. The 170 is well over a typical undergraduate degree. Engineering usually 132, typical degree 120. So the 170 caught my attention, and it didn't look like a simple program in my quick look at it. It looked like it had a lot of extra coursework.
I didn't sleep much.
Right. We're going to continue this application and have some more deliberation, I think would be my motion or my suggestion.
I
would
thank
agree with
Outside
you, Tony.
the education portion of itself, is there anything of any of the board members that you would like to discuss further that could help supplement it? Or does the board feel, even with further deliberation, is this more of a checkbox item for looking at the historical education portion?
I don't think unfortunately, it does not meet our requirements of a four-year engineering degree or come anywhere close. That is the problem. You have a good background, you're doing good work, but in terms of being licensed, I would not vote for it because it isn't meet our requirements. It doesn't mean you can't do the work, but you will need somebody to sign for the work in Connecticut. That's my view.
Which leads a little bit into the ethics questions, right? That's what we try to avoid, not doing work and having someone else stamp it.
Well, it's not really the case. Your firm is registered in Connecticut, and there's an individual assigned as a responsible party, but it's the firm who's licensed to do the work in the state of Connecticut.
I'm the owner, though. That's that's a little bit of the flip side of the coin here.
But that's not a unique situation. It's not atypical. It happens frequently. I mean, it's a normal corporate setup. The corporation is licensed to do work in the state of Connecticut, in whether it's an LLC or a corporation. Numerous means for that, and the individual in the office is the responsible party for the firm. And that's what John, is offering. So is there way to move this forward today, or a motion to either sustain our original evaluation, which is consistent with our policy of 25 years, as advised by our legal counsel from DCP, or do you want to table it for further consideration?
John, I'll make a motion that we table it because I looked at his undergraduate degree and I did notice that he did have some engineering courses in there. They're in the School of Architecture, which, I'm not sure if they qualify as engineering equivalent, courses, but I did see some structures courses. I did see some soil mechanics courses. And so that he was introduced to, some engineering courses, but I'm not sure if he has the breadth of it. So possibly if we looked at his undergraduate, degree and looked at, the kind of courses that he did take, did that give him enough background to make good engineering decisions based upon, and, somewhat having, an engineering background, to allow him to make those kind of decisions. So in that sense, if we table it and maybe take a look at his undergraduate degree, because, and again, if you look at, I don't know if you have it open, John, but I did see, I I did see some, where am I? Right here. I see, in the spring of 2005, he has structures 3. And then in, the semester before, he has structures 2. And then I see an introduction to soil behavior, which again is again a CE course. And he did take some surveying courses. So, possibly, looking at his undergraduate, degree, there might be some additional courses that would be beneficial.
The
'Cause
surveying, yeah, the surveying course is an engineering course. That counts. I don't think the architectural structures courses, because they're not taught by engineers and they're not equivalent to what you would get in a civil engineering program with structures. They're not
Right.
the same. My experience is that architectural structures courses are not the same as you get in an engineering program. And
Well,
then Mr. Mormon is welcome to address that.
And I'm a structures guy, so I don't, so I probably can agree with you, but I'm just, possibly, looking at some possibilities of, what he might have to supplement his, the problem is that, and again, we have to look at, if somebody's doing engineering design, does he have the design background required to do the engineering design? And a lot of that is analysis. And, I don't know that I see very much analysis courses in there. And, obviously everything is done by computers today, but sometimes you have to be able to verify whether the computers are doing, whether the input that you put into the computers is accurate for what you're trying to anticipate of the problem you're trying to solve. So, but, in that sense, I'd make a motion that we table it, but, I'm open to other suggestions if, we don't think that he has the undergraduate background, then, I can withdraw my motion.
I mean,
Just as a quick point
I
of
would
clarity,
second,
my professor who taught several years of our structures courses, she was a licensed professional engineer. Just to put it out there.
I would second Richard's motion to table, but I did have one question. Has a NCS evaluation been done on the degree?
No,
It wasn't in the package that I saw. That's
no,
why I'm
I
asking
didn't
the
say it
question.
either.
Greg, did NCS do an evaluation of your degree?
I believe that's part of the package because they've certified my education background and all of my experience background.
I didn't see an evaluation when I reviewed it.
Greg,
I didn't either.
What-
I didn't see an evaluation.
Well, I see, well, on his summary sheet, he does not have an 8-byte degree or an equivalent, an NCAAS equivalent, on his, summary
Correct.
page.
Greg,
It says that he has 15 years, 10 months of experience. He passed the PE exam and he passed the, fundamentals of engineering exam, but it doesn't have anything about, an accredited equivalent, educational background. So that
Right now,
is,
it's been moved and seconded to table the application. As further discussion has been
It
suggested
hasn't
that.
been seconded, Tony.
I
Excuse me?
seconded it.
It was
Oh, okay.
seconded by Rob Lubendowski.
Oh,
And
okay,
it-
sorry.
In continuing discussion, it was suggested that the education, the whole program at NGIT should be evaluated by NCAAS. That will be the last thing that we usually ask for in situations like this of the applicant. So the suggestion, which you asked for a suggestion, Gregory, was to have NCAAS evaluate your education and your program and have that summary, presented as additional information. Was that an
Understood.
acceptable modification to the motion?
yeah, I'll
Yeah.
modify my motion to that, that condition.
And I would second that.
Okay, so all those in favor of the motion to table the review of Gregory Mormon with a suggestion to Mr. Mormon to request a evaluation of the curriculum by NCEES, which is a standard procedure that we have required or requested of other applicants. So all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
I'm abstaining.
John, you abstained?
Yes.
John DeVoe? With that, we have an affirmative vote to the table.
Thank you,
Greg,
Mr.
what-
Chairman. Thank you, the board.
right,
Again, if
appreciate-
there's anything else
Appreciate your
further,
understanding.
you know how to get me.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Fred.
Enjoy your day.
The next application in our request for reconsideration is Volto, Kenneth Volto. Kenneth Volto's application is not significantly different than the one we just reviewed, in that we had previously determined that was not a model engineer and didn't have the engineering curriculum as a minimum of our to be consistent with our policy. So is there anything that anyone wants to add for further consideration of the request for reconsideration by Kenneth Volto?
I would say we are wasting our time. He has basically 13 engineering courses. I don't count a seminar, and I don't count engineering economics as valid engineering design courses. NCEES unfortunately did that, and I think that's wrong. He has basically a geoscience, science type degree, and he has courses, and there are only 13 courses, and I don't even agree with the fact that a science degree with 48 credits of courses is adequate. So I don't see how this works at all. I think we made the right decision the first round. We had a lot of discussion on these, all three of them, on Mormon and Volto. So I don't see any reason to reopen it. I don't know how you want to do it, but
Well, I think you have to make a motion to sustain our prior evaluation of the education.
So move.
Hey, Tony, I have a question. Why does it say NCS is unofficial? Why is his evaluation stamped unofficial?
I have the same question. It's stamped all over, unofficial, and I don't know why.
That was just the one that he submitted with his paperwork. I went and you should have the official one in your paperwork that I sent you. But that was just the one he sent in. I don't know why.
Okay. Well, that explains it then. Yeah, my notes on it were, NCWS specified that it's equivalent to ABET, but they reallocated, soil mechanics from Montclair State, which was a geoscience degree, not an engineering curriculum.
Right.
They did not include that in the 49 credits?
Well, it
They-
wasn't, it was included as a Montclair State in the 49 credits. But I guess with this new unofficial one, that they're trying to say that it was actually, the South Dakota School of Mines.
Right.
It's basically a science degree. If we're going to start approving engineering applicants with science degrees, and I have real problems with that.
And I, and again, I agree with Professor DeWolf in terms of, there's just, so many possibilities of not having good judgment by not having the enough engineering background that, it could lead somebody down the wrong path and it could be somewhat disastrous eventually, I'm not saying that it's going to be always disastrous, but there could be, a couple of, and that doesn't mean that even if you took good engineering courses, you're not going to make a bad decision, but hopefully you have at least the kind of credentials that would more or less prevent you from making bad decisions, but
I mean,
who
the
knows?
the
Oh, go ahead.
applicants we're talking about are they're practicing elsewhere. I mean, these are practicing engineers. These are class 4 applicants. These aren't brand new applicants. They're practicing engineers, and Mormon's a pretty good example. Looking at his resume and what he's designing, he he is certainly not designing anything cookie cutter. In his defense, I mean, he's designing SOEs and deep foundations in New York City. That is not cookie cutter design work, and he's been doing it for a long time. So, you know, I'm having, like Professor DeWolf, he has some.
John DeWolf, please.
I'm sorry. John has some issues. I have some issues as well, saying some of these people are not qualified. In my mind, we're here to define a minimum standard, and that's what I'm trying to stay focused on, and I'm having trouble saying some of these people don't meet the minimum standard, honestly.
I fully understand where you are. But I think our job is our fundamental job is to assure the safety. And I think what we have established is a minimum set of requirements, and that includes a 4-year engineering degree. I don't feel that a science degree can replace that. And as experience, there may be really good experience, but my problem with experience is it's not like experience when our regulations were originally written. At that point, everything was done by hand. You could not put it into a program, a software program. You had to do it by hand. So experience was a lot more I shouldn't say valuable, but it was more real. Today, you do so much on the computer, it scares me to think about people using software to design without having the appropriate engineering background.
John, when do you think experience, would, I hate to keep using the word, but when do you think experience would trump, the basic engineering from 20 years ago? And while the computer is a big part of every application or design, it enables an individual to make more checks. And in our experience, the programs are constantly changing and being upgraded, to account for some of the failures of the individual. So, when does experience override the deficiencies that might have been, in that basic engineering curriculum? And if I took thermodynamics as an obligation to complete the program, has it ever been used in my civil engineering design work? The answer is no. So experience is much more important, and the time of the experience. And each one of these individuals has had extensive experience over a long period of time.
And I just want to add one more thing, John. I'm not advocating to. I respect the board's policy for a lot of years, and I've followed it, but I'm not advocating to allow, let's say, science degrees to get licensed. What I am advocating, there are a lot of, call it physics degrees or maybe even an architectural degree with a master's degree in engineering. In my mind, when they get a master's degree in engineering, I think it ought to be a consideration and an evaluation situation and a consistently evaluated situation. So yeah, I wouldn't say just because somebody has a science degree, they could get a shot at this. I'm saying if you get a science degree plus the master's degree or even a PhD in engineering, then you would be at least qualified for review here.
I look at it a little bit along those lines and a little bit differently also. I start out as a as a chemistry major, and I realized that I can apply this into chemical engineering and become a professional engineer in chemical engineering. And I, deliberately go forward and take an engineering program as a graduate level in chemical engineering. Certainly my chemistry undergraduate didn't hurt me, but I didn't have soils. But now I'm a chemical engineer. Do I need soils or hydraulics? In the case of an architect, he's putting together an architectural design. He has an architectural undergraduate degree. He's a licensed architect. He gets a master's that includes a tremendous emphasis on structures. And now he's designing structures for 15 or 20 years. So the experience is important. Did thermodynamics ever assist him in his design of the structural building? No. That's why experience, I think, has to be emphasized more in our evaluation. The differences here with Volto and Mormon right now are that Volto had a evaluation by the NCEES, and they felt that it was consistent with the model law, and perhaps consistent with what's being done throughout the council, if you will, or the jurisdictions on other states. Is this equivalent to what other licensed engineers are being required to approve?
I'm having problem with this evaluation simply because it included engineering economics, which I don't think is correct, and it included a seminar course. And I don't think that's correct. Those aren't they involve engineering, but I don't think they're equivalent to engineering courses. I think he only has 13 courses, but I still have this problem with the undergraduate not having an undergraduate degree that has any engineering in it. That's my problem, I guess.
Well, there's a motion on the table to sustain our prior evaluation. Is there a second to that? There can be other motions on this application, but right now the motion is to deny the reciprocity based on the deficiency in the undergraduate degree and the for lack of a better term, disagreement with the evaluation done by NCEES.
I would suggest and even make the motion to table him too, until we sort out our make sure we're all on the same page with our policy.
Yeah, I agree with that, Rob.
I have a problem that people, when they recognize that they want to go into engineering, that they don't supplement their undergraduate degree with additional engineering courses that would give them the kind of background that they need. The thing is, I'm all for saying, oh yeah, I made a mistake. I have a degree in geoscience, but now I want to be an engineer. But in order for me to be an engineer, let me spend another year of taking engineering courses, rather than just saying, well, I want to be an engineer, so teach me to be an engineer. I don't care if it takes all afternoon.
Okay, how about, first of all, remember, we have a motion on the floor.
Okay, and I'll second the motion that we deny him because of the fact that, there was a lack of, getting supplementary engineering support degree credits to support an engineering degree.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded to deny based on the lack of engineering degree. Is there any discussion? I'll lead the discussion. When do you consider, Patty, you have a comment, please?
I have a question.
Yes.
We sent the last application back to the board to get their opinion, right?
So
We're asking him to get supplemental information.
Yes, we did.
This person has the supplemental approval.
Yes, he does.
So why did we send the other guy back if we don't take that approval as a decision?
It's not a matter, it's not always a matter of course. We don't always have it, you see. So in this case, Mr. Mormon did not have an NCEES evaluation. To be consistent with other reviews that we've made, we suggested that let's have that that list. What if NCEES comes back and says, well, no, it's not equivalent to an undergraduate degree? They may come back and say, oh, based on the way and New Jersey Institute of Technology set their program, we believe that it's equivalent. And they're not looking at experience. They're only being asked to look at the education curriculum. My question in this discussion would be, if New Jersey Institute of Technology accepted the individual in their graduate program for structures or civil engineering, in this case, on Mormon, did they not consider that he had the credentials to be able to proceed through their program? In other words, if they came to NGIT and requested admission into the graduate program in structures, and the school could have said, you need to take this to be equivalent to our program. So are the universities at fault for not recognizing the deficiencies? And it has nothing to do with what NCEES may want. It's a matter of, should we be permitting this student to continue his studies here without the basic understanding of engineering? And then they say, well, wait a minute, his basic undergraduate is architecture. He wants to go into structures. He's okay with us because he's a structural engineer. He's taking a structural engineering program. You see? So is there some stock to be put in the fact that the university accepted the credentials as equivalent, and the student was able and proved to be able to meet the requirements of the graduate program, and then add experience to that, and you have a very qualified engineer.
The question is, how do we evaluate experience? And that I'm putting to Bob, because that's a good question. Bob has pointed out that this applicant has some really great experience. Bob Landowski is the one that I'm directing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I truthfully, I don't know this one that well. I didn't review him originally. It was Bob Doan originally reviewed, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I did Mormon. I didn't do Ken
Yeah.
Spalto.
Yeah, I did Ken initially. I'm looking at his experience right now.
The experience in this case is varied because he went from job to job to different job. He ended up teaching for a while. Now he's in forensic engineering on his own, but he's a licensed engineer in other states. So you really go back to that Montclair State, and then when they went back to reevaluate his master's, they decided to take some other courses and then apply them to the graduate level, and accepted them as 49 credits instead of 48. So, in comparison, I wouldn't put the two experiences together and say they were equivalent, but
No, I mean, he bounced around a lot in terms of, he worked for FEMA,
Yeah.
I'm not sure, he
Did he
did some,
take the 2 exams?
I believe he
so-
did.
yeah, the exams are all there. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, I just mentioned once again that early on in our review process, when we were having, we didn't have the evaluations being done by NCEES, we took the position that if an individual with a foreign degree graduated with a master's from an institution in the U.S. that had an undergraduate ABET accredited program, we would deem him as his undergraduate education equivalent. And I don't know whether or not you could apply that here.
No, I don't think you could, because this is a science degree.
Right.
And I think I'm hearing Bob Lewandowski about the fact that there are maybe cases where experience is good enough to do it, but I'm I think it's a very difficult thing to evaluate. That's my problem. If you want to talk about Mormon, he has 7 engineering courses. I can't see that he should even have it reviewed. I don't see how that, even with the liberal approach NCEES is using, I don't see how they can approve him. But
What, is Volto?
Mormon, I don't
Oh,
see how
Mormon.
that one could be approved. But I mean, that
Well,
one is just so lacking that I can't. But Svelto does have a really good graduate degree.
John, just to be clear, I'm not having as much trouble on the experience side as much as I'm having trouble on the education evaluation side of this. And it does go back to something that Tony just mentioned. We've been relying on NCES to evaluate foreign degrees for quite a while here. And if we see that foreign degree as being equivalent by NCES, we go with it.
Right. There's no
But we
problem.
don't do that for a domestic degree.
No, don't mix up engineering and science degrees. The question is, if you have a 4-year engineering degree and it's not a US 4 accredited degree, NCS will tell us whether it's equivalent or not. That's fine. And usually it's often they're not equivalent because there's humanities or gen ed missing. But that's a 4-year engineering degree. I think most 4-year engineering degrees, whether they're in the US or elsewhere, are okay. And in fact, I'm going to recommend that Tronky be approved.
Yeah,
And
and just to respond to that, John, that's where I have a little bit of uncertainty. I think, in many countries, I think you're right, but none of these are ABET approved engineering course curriculums, right? We're basically saying, oh, something in, Rome, Italy, or certain developed countries, we're trusting it more than, we've had some degrees come through from some lesser countries, let's say. But again, we rely on that NCS evaluation. And, as someone who taught for 30 years myself, and I think you too, John, I don't know, I've seen some foreign engineers come through, and, sometimes I would question some of the educational background, and I just have that in the back of my mind. And again, I don't know these people, these foreign degrees that get submitted. But I have that in the back of my mind that, okay, well, they got a foreign degree. It's been evaluated by NCS to be equivalent. I feel like we're giving a lot of deference to that evaluation by NCES for that applicant, but we're not giving that same deference to the domestic degree.
yeah,
The domestic applicant with an NCS evaluation of a science degree and a master's in engineering. It's really when they get that advanced degree in engineering that I'm having trouble with it, John, honestly. Without that, I'm in your camp on this. But with that
I've
master's degree, I'm having trouble with it.
yeah, a weaker foreign engineering degree in my view, far outweighs a 4-year science degree.
Yeah, I think that would be the discussion I would want to understand. I think because you're hitting the nail on the head where my concern is,
Mhm.
that comparison.
So there's a motion on the table to sustain our prior determination to deny Kenneth Volto reciprocity due to the lack of qualifying undergraduate engineering degree. We've had discussion. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion to deny reciprocity to Kenneth Volto due to a lack of a qualifying undergraduate science degree, say aye. Now, in this
Aye.
vote, I didn't ask for it yet. I
Oh.
just said I wanted to remind everyone, you can, vote make your vote to deny that or deny the the motion. Well, so an aye is to deny the reciprocity. Right?
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So all those in favor of the motion to deny reciprocity for Kenneth Bolto, say aye.
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 Are there any opposed?
Opposed.
Rob Lewandowski voted negative, but the motion carried. Thank you. Move on to our next application, which was review of Marcello Tronci. Excuse me, no, I'm gonna, that was not my intent. Yes, it is, following the agenda.
I've looked at this again. It's a BS in civil engineering, Italian degree. He has what NCES says is 40.8 hours of engineering. I don't know how in the world they did this because they gave some courses 5.3 credits, some 2.7, one was 1.1. How did they get all these partial points? Is beyond me, but it is an engineering degree. He has 7 years, 8 months of experience, and basically, I think his degree that he has is better than a technical degree from the US. And a technical degree from the US, we are approving with 7 years of experience. So I would recommend that we approve Tronky. And that's a motion. But I'd love to hear more discussion.
One,
Rob?
one,
I'll second that motion.
I'm looking at all the smiles.
well, right now there's a motion to approve. Is there a second to the motion before discussion? Richard, did you,
Yes.
did you,
Yes.
you
I'll
second
second
it?
the motion.
Oh, Al
And
Al
we'll
can
talk
second
about
this
it, I
one.
guess.
Al can second this.
Okay, so it's been moved and second to approve that the application for Chauncey. Why, the other thing we should mention is that back in 2016, our board, many of whom are still here, approved him to sit for the exams. And now the question is it equivalent? So that's one other aspect of it. And then
Yeah.
they do have, he does have the basics of the chemistry, the physics under one side. Then we move over and it does have material testing, roadway design, soil mechanics, hydrology. So those have many of the elements that we would expect in a civil engineering undergraduate program. Also, just a comment on the NCWS evaluations. I'm at a loss to find a date on any of these evaluations. Am I the only one? And in this one, I just made a note to myself, is this evaluation current? I can't tell when it was done. And it
I
doesn't
didn't look
have,
at that.
Well, it
I
has
just
a date
don't
at
ever
the
see it,
bottom
even
of
on,
the evaluation, and in terms of for Tronsky, it says 1/12/2026.
correct, but that, I'm not assuming I'm not accepting that as a verification of the evaluation rather than the time it was submitted as part of the record. That's all I'm questioning. See? Anyway, that was just a point, but is there any further discussion? It's been moved and seconded to approve.
Yeah,
Tom.
I like the reference to the fact that, it must be at least equivalent to a technical engineering degree that we would get in the United States, with, the discrepancies of, how much credit hours are being assigned to each course. So, and the fact that he does have 7 years of experience, I think that, I find it easier to make that kind of, evaluation and that kind of, conditions, to back, a good judgment that the fact that, he does have the kind of educational background and the experience that we're looking for. So, that is kind of a good analogy, the fact that, we start looking at these technical degrees and how much weight that they carry eventually.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
Tony, I had two comments or thoughts. One was, I think that letter that he referenced was what, 2016, that the board had reviewed his application.
Right.
And I think the wording in there said met the qualifications to sit for the exam. I think it was words along those lines, met the qualifications. And in my mind, in 2016, I don't think I was on the board, but it really doesn't matter. Like at 2016, you went through a process and you evaluated, that application, and based on the tools in front of you, the board deemed it okay. And it's written down saying that we reviewed your qualifications and they meet the qualifications. So in my mind, it's hard to go against that, honestly.
Correct. I agree.
But I'm going to give you the but. Again, if we keep referencing NCES and we keep saying, we want to follow the NCES model law. So I feel like we're selectively recognizing NCES opinion, right? So we're going to recognize their opinion over here, but we're not going to recognize their opinion over there. And in this case, I completely respect John and anybody else's evaluation of the degree, saying it's a good degree, but why does NCS say the degree is not good? I mean, I have that just makes me scratch my head,
Right.
and if I was an applicant upset with I would be upset. And I think that's one of the big roots of my concerns with these things, inconsistent, and I think that NCS affords some level of consistency.
Correct. So as a baseline, what we've done today is we've said to Mormon, get us an NCEES evaluation. In Svolto, we said we don't agree with your evaluation. In Chauncey, we've said we agree with NCEES evaluation.
No,
The difference
we
is,
don't.
no,
That was
Chauncey,
the point
Chauncey
I was
doesn't
trying to
meet-
make, is that we're
Patty.
not consistent. That was the
Excuse-
point I was trying to make. We had an approved one. We sent someone back to get it, even though we didn't take the approval anyway. So why did we make him go through that step? I'm
Well,
not sure.
What I just said,
stalling.
what I just said was to make sure that we understand what Rob is pointing out. In the case of Mormon, we said we don't have an NCEES evaluation. Let's go see what that is. So we tabled it. We had an NCEES evaluation for Svolto and we ignored it. We have an evaluation for Chauncey and we're going to accept it. And Rob's position is we're being selective rather than consistent. That's troubling. That's why we need to thrash this out once and for
Yes.
all. Either we're going to just back up and say, okay, listen, if we're trying to be equivalent and foster reciprocity, which is one of the main objectives of NCEES that we subscribe to. If we're going to be consistent, then we should allow NCEES to be the bottom line on the evaluation of the education. Okay, and then we can look at the experience.
Two comments. First of all, Tronky has a 4-year engineering degree, the others don't. So
Agreed.
that's a huge difference. And secondly, I'm not trusting some of these NCEES evaluations when they give credit for something like engineering economics. That's not an engineering course. It's a business course.
I agree. So Patty, you see what John's pointing out here. The Mormon did not have an undergraduate ABET accredited engineering degree, right? Svolto did not have an undergraduate ABET accredited engineering degree. Chauncey has an engineering degree from a foreign institution, which was evaluated by NCEES as being equivalent. So
No,
that's
it wasn't.
the difference.
It was not equivalent.
It was
Not
not
equivalent.
equivalent.
It was,
It's lacking credits, but
it was lacking
it
some
is,
credits.
but it is,
Yes.
it's,
But it was an engineering degree, and
Degree.
now we're put in a position of evaluating the experience. Once again, is experience more important than the undergraduate degree, which doesn't progress into what the discipline is that the individual is practicing? Hence, my position is I believe that engineering experience is as important as the deficiencies in the undergraduate degree, whether or not it's a science degree with a master's with a concentration in engineering and the field that the individual ultimately practices in.
And we
With-
take into evaluation the experience for a technical degree.
Correct.
A technical degree is not equivalent to a 4-year engineering degree, but if they have 6 years, it's almost an automatic checkoff.
yep. I think it's 7, isn't it?
7.
Yeah,
Or
seven,
seven, yeah.
Yeah, and that, I have problems with that too, the technical degree.
Yeah,
But it is an engineering degree, the student.
correct.
Hey, Tony, I mean, 10 years ago in 2016, made a rule. And honestly, I have a little trouble going against that, right? Because you have to put yourself in.
You're
We deem
freezing,
your
Rob.
your,
You know, I keep losing you, Rob, on that, but I think I know where you're
Oh,
going.
sorry.
And
you know,
Tony.
2016, you said his application was okay. Go ahead, take the test. He went ahead based on that
Yeah,
Right.
ruling.
it was a vote of confidence, and we
How do we
accepted
go
it.
against that now?
No, we don't. I don't think we should. I don't think we should.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
that's why we said we're approving it.
All right. So the motion is to approve. We've had a discussion. The board evaluated the education at the time, and it was probably without NCAAS. So all those in favor of the motion to approve Chauncey for reciprocity, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Was there any abstention or opposed? No. The motion carries.
Patty, thank you for your comments, because it's always good when public members come in and question us. That's why you're here.
The next application is Kyoko Karwalski. And
I think we made the right decision previously. This is a BS in physics with 5 UConn courses, and I still think some of those courses overlap what the masters had. It had a master's, a BS in physics, a master's from UMass in electrical and computers, and then took 5 additional courses at UConn to boost the number of credits. But these courses obviously have overlap. I don't think it works. And I got even 42 hours is not enough. I think we made the right decision. So I move that we reaffirm our decision made previously.
Could I just interrupt for a second? So I think she's looking for kind of direction. She had sent an email just kind of looking like she's asking, I think, what should she be taking, or you know what I mean? Like I'm pretty sure her email asks like kind of what should she be taking as far as courses. So they're not overlapping, I guess.
right.
That's a very difficult thing. We've had that discussion in the past, and I don't think it's our place to say, if you do this, this, and this, will prove you. I think it's a very risky path to follow.
Okay. So let's go.
Could I
Let's go
want
to
to just respond to that, Tony. I think it's a fair question. You know, somebody applies to a board and again, I reviewed her last month and we voted to deny her because of our board policy of a lack of 4-year engineering degree. But again, NCES evaluation says equivalent. Our board denies her asking the question, well, what would it take to get approved? I don't think that's an unfair question. Because
Right.
now we're not into objective black and white situations. We're into a board opinion on what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. You know, so she's trying to get a license and she's asking what would make me acceptable.
So if I read this correct, the evaluation of the degree from Japan was there were no deficiencies. Okay. And I made myself a note here and I said, I almost want to table this discussion until we get over to the discussion on one applicant named Arash. It's on our agenda today. When Karwowski proceeded in her education, she took a master's in electrical and computer engineering. It's a module from NCEES for licensure as a professional engineer. She has an undergraduate degree in the same field, and there's no deficiency. There's not a soils course, and there's no hydrology. There's no thermodynamics.
There doesn't have to be, it's electrical and applicant.
Exactly.
Electrical
So why do we have a problem with this then? Her undergraduate degree in computer engineering in Japan had no deficiencies, and she has a master's in electrical and computer engineering in from UMass. Why should we deny her?
Her undergraduate degree is physics, it's not an engineering degree. It's a physics degree with no engineering.
But does physics lend itself to electrical and computer engineering?
Sure,
Or
it does.
is the program that she took as a master's all that she needs to be to pass the exams?
At UConn, you can do a combination electrical engineering and physics program. One option is to do it in physics, which makes it a science degree. The other option is to do it in electrical engineering, which makes it an engineering degree. This one is just a science background. The easiest way to evaluate these things, and I admit they're not all the same, but the easiest way is if you don't have a four-year engineering degree, you don't meet the National Model Code. Now, we have in the past, students have a science degree. They spend a year or so going back and doing undergraduate engineering courses and then a master's. That becomes more equivalent. But I just think once you start opening up that some science degrees are acceptable and some are not, you've got problems.
All right. So then, if you're going to deny, you should be able to advise the applicant that she should consult with UMass and determine what undergraduate courses should have been included in the UMass undergraduate electrical engineering program.
You know, I'm looking at her transcript or at this evaluation and you know, it shows, you know, the fact that, you know, they only considered courses from the University of Connecticut and the University of Massachusetts. And, you know, realistically, she should be able to go either to the University of Connecticut or UMass and say, you know, I want an engineering degree, and these are the courses I've take. Which ones will you accept to transfer? And what do I need in order to get my bachelor's in engineering? And they might say, oh, you only need 2 courses, you know, based upon the courses that you've taken, you need this, or based upon the courses that you've taken, you need that.
All right,
And
so
they should do the evaluation in terms of, we should not be giving them, you know, what courses they need. I think that, you know, the university should be able to evaluate, you know, how many courses are acceptable towards a degree in a certain, you know, concentration, and then allow them to make that decision. So,
Right, so
you know,
it's kind of what
and she might only need one. Who
it's
knows?
along the lines of what I said in the beginning.
Right.
If an applicant goes to the university and says, I want to apply for your engineering master's program, do I have the background? They're going to say yes, because it's a money-making operation at that point. But in this case, if we're going to deny this individual because she has a science degree, then she should consult with either program to say, I want to fill up I want to, supplement my master's program with the undergraduate program so that I can qualify as an engineering degree.
Well, it doesn't
That's-
even have to be a master's. It could be just a bachelor's. It could be an equivalent bachelor's degree in
I
either
understand.
computer science or so it doesn't have to, as long as it's just the degree. So
It's a question is what did I miss in my undergraduate program that would qualify me for a degree, an undergraduate degree? And you
That's
just
a
pointed
good-
out it may be 2 courses, maybe 3 courses.
right.
That's an interesting point. No way is she going to get a undergraduate degree from UConn because I think there's a requirement, if I'm correct, that you have to do so many credits at the university before they'll give you an undergraduate degree. You can only transfer in a certain amount of credits. But what would be interesting is if this were evaluated to meet the requirements for a bachelor's in engineering. So what
And
would
we've
she
done
take?
that in
I
the
like what
past, John.
Tony says, and I like what Rich says.
We've done that in the past a few times, John. We lined up the requirements of a degree and compared it against what was submitted, in these circumstances. And I remember we've approved or denied people based on that type of review.
I don't know how you get it done. That's the question.
I think it's a consultation with the University of Massachusetts and say, I've got a master's from your program. What would I have needed to be qualified as a undergraduate degree in computer and what did she take? Computer and electrical engineering.
That's not.
Why
don't
wouldn't
you-
NCS do that?
Because they're not, the problem with what NCES is doing, in my view, they're counting engineering courses. They're just counting credits. They're not looking at breadth. They're not looking at ABET requirements. That's the problem. They should be looking at ABET requirements.
If I were Kyoko, I would go to UMass and say, if I were to have applied for an undergraduate degree, what what would I have taken that I have not already taken as my master's?
I
And
like
fill in the
that
blanks. That's what I would do.
idea.
Huh? Does that seem reasonable?
Yes.
But we're
So
going
let me
to
ask another
deny.
question. Let me ask
Yes, sir.
another question on Kyoko. If you compare her transcript against Tranchi's, who has is Kyoko's transcript stronger overall in the engineering area than Tranchi's? I don't know the answer to that question. I'm asking it.
Well, it's a
I don't
totally
know the
different field. I mean, it's a different discipline. She took a master's, totally in electrical and computer engineering.
But we're giving everybody the same license.
Correct. And Kyoko can be a computer engineer and decide that she's going to use a computer program to design a retaining wall. But that's another issue.
Correct.
If and she has asked, if I've got an deficiency, what do I need? Okay, so I would consult with my master's program with with the university.
She needs to go back
determine-
to the institution that offers degrees.
All right. So since she has a master's from UMass in computer engineering, were she to have started in an undergraduate program, what would she have had to take that she does not already have? And let's see how that works out. So we've denied your application for reciprocity in the state of Connecticut due to a lack of qualifying undergraduate degree. A recommendation is for you to consult with the University of Massachusetts and determine what courses are lacking from your undergraduate program of electrical and computer engineering.
We wouldn't include the graduate courses in that?
I think so. I
I
don't,
think so.
Absolutely. I agree. The graduate courses, they may fit back in and may be then fine.
You know
She
what?
has an equivalent undergraduate degree. That would be great. That
One
may
might-
be our solution
one
to
might be
the overall
computer
discussion
yeah.
on four-year science degrees.
I'm hoping that's the solution, John, and I'm hoping that I've been hoping that NCS is that person that's able to make that determination, but it doesn't sound like we have confidence in that, unfortunately.
So there's a motion to deny.
Quick question.
Yes.
What if they come back and say it would have been equivalent? Are we going to accept it, or do we have something that's going to hold us back? And I'm just playing devil's advocate here. What if the university says we would have granted it to you based on what you have? Would we accept that?
I try to separate this particular application from what I envision as a typical civil engineering program, right? So the individual that goes to UMass and says, I want to study electrical engineering, I don't want civil. I'm right off the bat. There's an undergraduate program, I assume, for electrical engineering. It's different for mechanical, electrical, and civil. So I started out in the civil program. I moved over to the mechanical program. Obviously, I got to take some, basic mechanical engineering programs, courses to be in that curriculum now to graduate as a mechanical engineer degree, right? So in this case, the woman went to UMass, took the master's program. She took electrical engineering 400 instead of 101. So that's what I was saying before. If I accepted you into my program for a master's degree, I have to be confident that you have the background to take, electrical engineering 400. So Patty, in my opinion, they may come back and say, listen, our program was very, basic. We filled it up with a lot of electives, but you took all the electrical engineering courses in your graduate program. You're missing ba, 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 take those 3 courses. They'll make some money. And I would say that the applicant is now equivalent with the undergraduate degree. Leave it up to the institution to offer them a diploma in undergraduate electrical and computer engineering. I would accept it personally.
Well, do they need to offer a diploma, or do they just need to offer an opinion to
No,
say
I
that
think
that
they
her
don't need
body of education would
Right.
satisfy an undergraduate degree in?
Yes,
Right. Well, why wouldn't they just issue a diploma at that point? If
They might
if you
choose
take
to
it-
No
do that.
school's gonna do that, you know
but they're not
that.
going to do that because it's a monetary issue,
That's right.
But take 4 more courses, and I will send you a transcript of equivalency. Then NCEES can look at it if we want them to and say, yeah, that's equivalent to the normal undergraduate degree in electrical and computer engineering. It may be 3 courses, it may be 4, but it's going to be a decision from UMass as to what would they have required, for an undergraduate degree in electrical and computer. And, how many of those courses have been qualified now with just more intensity?
I
And
don't
then-
see any way that UMass gives a degree for this.
What was that? Say again?
I just don't see UMass get you. I don't see you, if you go there to take 1 course, 2 courses, 3 courses, I just don't see them issuing you an undergraduate degree.
They're not going to, but they could evaluate it and say, is this equivalent to their undergraduate degree? Is their physics degree plus their master's equivalent to an undergraduate? That's what we're trying to determine.
Agreed. That's
Yeah.
what I think. You have
Agreed.
a physics degree. You had certain courses that overlap that might have been in our undergraduate curriculum. You need this and this, but you already took that and that. So you've got what we would have granted you. And then see what happens.
The interesting question is, if she had decided not to do a master's, but to get a 4-year engineering undergraduate degree with her physics degree, what would they have required her to take to get a bachelor's in electrical engineering or whatever it is?
Electrical and computer. I agree. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah,
You have
I
all
think
the-
that's a great, that may be our overall, our long-term
Yeah,
solution.
we'll put it on
Let's
the institution
find
and
out if
get
it's
their
equivalent.
opinion.
Yeah,
So the motion was to deny, and I filled in some wording. I don't know if it's going to come out the way you wanted it, but it was to suggest that they go back to the institution to see what was lacking in the undergraduate program with consideration for the science degree of physics that's already been completed. So the onus is on UMass.
I mean, I'd make a motion, Tony, to table it just like Mormon. Because we're sending Mormon back to do some more homework. Table it, send Kyoko back to do some more homework. Right, I mean, rather than deny again. Because if that comes back, if that, homework, additional information comes back, we might be approving.
Okay, so
That's
we're
true.
going to table it and advise the applicant. If I'm going to put some words into this. So right now, Rob is suggesting tabling it and advising the applicant to determine what courses are lacking for an undergraduate degree in electrical and computer engineering from UMass.
perfect.
I like it. I'll second that.
Does that sound clear enough, Jane?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
I mean, Tony, do you maybe propose it in the alternative way to say, can you have UMass evaluate your total education and map it against an undergraduate degree in, I don't want to get it wrong, was it electrical?
Electrical and computer engineering.
Electrical and
Yeah.
computer.
Have them evaluate her entire body of education against their degree requirements and give us an opinion if they meet,
I agree.
versus saying, what's the deficiency?
Right. But from a practical discussion with the schools, what do I need? What additional courses do I need to complete the program for an undergraduate degree in electrical and computer engineering, considering what I've already taken in your master's program?
Did we say 4-year engineering degree? 4-year undergraduate engineering degree, just to be specific.
Yeah.
4-year accredited, accredited undergraduate degree in electrical and
Right.
computer engineering.
Right.
At the University of Massachusetts.
Yes.
I'm wondering if we might not end up finding it is equivalent.
And that's what Patty was asking.
Which
If
is,
they come back and say, listen, you took undergraduate level all those things that we would have required, plus you have a science degree with physics, and you did this, and this, which might be by electives anyway. Therefore, you're already set. So we would have given you a degree in an undergraduate, an undergraduate degree. We don't know what they're going to say, but that's the question that she has to ask.
The one thing that the applicant may not meet in the undergraduate program is the requirement for a senior project design course. But that way, the experience could meet that.
Correct. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, we'll see. I think the motion has been stated, seconded to advise the applicant to discuss program equivalency with UMass. And we'll see how it gets phrased. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
I think this has been a great discussion. It's making me think, anyway.
I'm going to take one more note here for a moment. Okay. All right, the next applicant for reconsideration for Class 1 exam, credits Part 1 and 2, approved Class 1 license. Quinn Zacharias. This one,
Okay,
yeah, it was
Okay.
education equivalency. I mean, equivalent, education versus work.
here, I was the one, I think, who reviewed it last time, and the problem was he's a PhD student at Yale and working, but he has established that he has a full-time research position at Yale, working 40 hours per week. He's also on the side doing the PhD, but he has 4 years of experience, and so I move that we approve him for Class 1 credit Part 1.
There's a second to that motion. And the only qualification I would make is that it's she, not he.
Oh, she.
Yeah.
Actually, just to interrupt, it's, he took both parts of the exam, he took both exams in Florida. So he never obtained a license in Florida, so he's applying here, for the license. So it would be credit both parts.
Yes, okay, then
Okay.
I'll change the motion that he be approved crediting both parts of the exam. So he'd be approved for license,
Correct.
but he has the 4 years of experience that we require.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? I'm sorry if I missed it.
I'll
Second,
second. Oh, whoever.
All right, I put Richard down. All those in favor of the motion to approve? Quinn.
Aye.
Aye.
Zacharias. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. All right. Taking a couple extra notes here. Hold on a sec. Okay. That leads us to page 3 of our regular agenda, which is a list of applicants who passed the PE exam. There were 4. The next list was newly licensed model law class 4 applicants. This month there were 67. And that leads us to our regular agenda, page 5, which is to consider applicants for class 1 exam credit part 1. I reviewed Carone and Sermola. My recommendation is to approve both for class 1 credit part 1.
I'll second it.
Was that Richard?
Al,
Oh, Al. I have to look up. Thank you, Al. All those in favor of the motion to approve Carone and Sermola for class 1 credit part 1, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none, that motion carries. John DeWolf reviewed Farrell, Zednak, and Lee for,
I move, okay,
but,
I move
yeah,
approval for permit Class 1 exam credit Part 1 for all 3.
second.
I'll second.
Se-
Thank you, Rob. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And Bob Doan reviewed Mall and Manila.
I make a motion to approve Mall and Manila for permit class 1 exam credit part 1.
For a second?
I'll second.
Second,
Thank you, Richard. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Rob reviewed Moran and Rojas.
Yeah, I recommend approval of both good degrees, endorsers and experience. So I recommend approval.
I'll second.
Second? Second? I'll second. All those in favor of the motion to approve Moran and Rojas, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And the last group reviewed by Richard Swizak for Stevens and Traore for Class 1 exam credit part 1.
I'll make a motion that we approve both of them. Traore had a degree, an equivalent degree from Maui, so they both have plenty of years of experience and they have passed their fundamentals. So I'll make a motion we approve both of them.
I'll second.
Second. Thank you, Al. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Last group of applicants are for Class 4 reciprocity. I reviewed the first applicant, which was Arash Anzalachi. Now, Mr. Anzalachi has an undergraduate degree from Iran. Evaluation very good. Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering. Made myself a note. He had some thermodynamics, but no soils, no hydrology. He's in a program for electrical engineering. He has a PhD from Florida International University. All electrical, and there were no makeup courses. My recommendation is to approve Mr.
I'll second.
Mr. Arash, yeah.
I'll second.
John Wilbur. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. John reviewed the next two applicants, El Sayed and Fennick.
Al Sayed has a foreign degree which lacks 1 credit of science and 15 credits of humanities, so it's fine. And he has an MS and PhD from UMass and Tufts, so he's fine. And Fennick is, I questioned Jane why we're even reviewing him, and she said there was no NCEES record, but he's a model law, so I move approval of both El Sayed and Fennick.
Thank you, John. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Robert. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Bob Doan reviewed Flint and Hussein.
Mr. Flint has a technical degree from Rochester Institute of Technology. He has a BSCE. He has 14 years, 4 months experience. Hussein has a degree from Bulgaria. He's missing 2 hours in general ed and 7 hours in math. But I make a motion to approve both.
Second,
I'll second.
Thank you, Richard. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And Rob Lewandowski reviewed LaSalle and Skarup.
LaSalle has a technology degree with 18 years of experience. So OK and Skarup is a foreign degree from New Brunswick University. NCS evaluated it, meet its standards with 22 years of experience. So I recommend approval for both.
Your second?
Second.
Thank you, Robert. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carried. And then, Richard, you reviewed Tarek and Tai.
Tarek has a degree from South Korea and was deemed equivalent from NCAAS, and Tai has a degree from India and it was deemed equivalent from NCAAS. So I'll make a motion that we approve both.
I'll
Second.
second.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. That concludes our applicants on page 5. On page 6, we had our surveying issues that were approved. And the last item of business was the approval of the Class 9 licenses for the EIT, Anderson through Villanueva, on page 6 of our regular agenda. Is there a motion to approve those applicants?
So moved.
Thank you, Robert. Second? Thank you, Richard.
No, that was Rob, I think.
I
Was
can't
out.
hear good. If it doesn't light up and I don't hear anything, I don't know. All right,
Well,
Rob.
I'll take it.
All those in favor of the motion to approve, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And our last page of the agenda 7 indicates our meeting next month on April 21st. Is there any new business to discuss? I'm hoping that this discussion today was, well, arduous and exhausting, quite honestly, in the preparation for and continuance of the discussion will prove. We're going to see a little bit more pattern develop, I think, with the request for some evaluation by NCAAS. Again, to see. So if there is no additional business, is there a motion
Tony,
to?
were you going to
Yeah.
set up something for additional discussions or?
I personally think it's appropriate, and I am going to inquire again as to why we can't have an executive session amongst ourselves on on a Zoom, and get a better feeling of whether or not we should be looking at this in a different way with, in my opinion, some greater emphasis on experience as being a very important aspect of it, in spite of a science degree. Because I believe that, a science degree exposes you to something that you want to indulge in, and concentrate in. And if that turns out to be the motivation for pursuing a master's program and then a professional concentration, then I think it's worthy of consideration, in my opinion.
My comment on that is the sooner the better,
Yes, sir.
because you gave me an assignment to do
Yes, sir.
with the legislature, and I'm touching back with Carl in May. So it would be a help if I know what, that's going to have any influence on what I should talk to him about.
Jane, can you investigate for us and give us all back a comment as to whether or not there's any reason why we can't have an executive session? And I think it's appropriate. We're basically discussing personnel issues and policies, and that should be done without reference to a particular application or applicant.
Good morning. I can comment on that a little bit. So you can do executive session. We would just have to post the meeting if we have a quorum. So the meeting will get posted like it usually does. And then once you start the meeting, you can go into executive session and then it'll just be a discussion between the board members.
Okay, so
Okay,
then the next thing is, if that's what we can do, we should decide amongst ourselves, when can we do that? Have that meeting? When can we set aside an hour or two to have that? Is it morning, afternoon,
Can
middle
we,
of the week?
could we do it right after our April meeting? Go into executive session
How about right before?
or before, either way.
That way there, if it leads to, an adjustment in the policy, we can
Yeah,
take action on it.
that's a good idea, Rob.
So that would mean our meeting would start at 10:15 or 10:30.
Yeah,
Or have the executive
Or-
session earlier.
or
Right,
if you
no,
want to meet
I'll
at,
start earlier. I can certainly start earlier. It's up to anybody else.
I suggest that we plan for at least an hour for the executive
Right, yes,
session.
sir.
yes,
That's what I said. I was assuming we would start at 9 and then the regular meeting would start at 10, but if everybody can meet at 8, we can go on until it ends at 9:15, 9:30, whatever, and become prepared with and we can certainly share some information first, well, is that permissible, Rochelle, to put out position papers individually as to what we're thinking about and distribute them amongst our members? Before-
Like just discuss.
In other words, if I send a letter, here's what I'm thinking. I'm not asking you to agree or disagree at this point. Here's what I'm thinking. And Rob does the same thing and John does the same thing. Is that permitted to do?
Yes, yeah, that would be part of the conversation. That's fine. It's not anything,
Just being just
problem with
we're
that.
sharing information, whether it's a
That'll
phone
keep
call or a written summary, so we can have we can't go in and have the debate without having considered what other options are available to us, right? So if we
Yeah,
would all
we'll
do
know
that.
what we're gonna fit underneath the umbrella is what it boils down to.
Say that again, Al. I'm sorry.
We'll know what we want to put in the box, basically, or,
Yes,
what
sir.
we're gonna be discussing.
Yes, sir.
Narrow the
Just,
conversation down somewhat.
And this, you want to distribute that like prior to going into executive session? Is that what the question actually was? And I miss.
We want to be able to have the executive discussion and either agree at that time to say we haven't done enough yet, or based on what we've been hearing from each other, we may find that there's a reasonable way to establish a new policy. Because
Right, so I guess if you want to come up with your own opinions and then have those available before going into the meeting, I would have you either submit that to Jane or I, and we can distribute it to the board members. That way
Okay.
it is considered a meeting. So just if that's how I just want to make sure I was understanding the question correctly. So if you have comments and want to submit comments, I would say submit them to Jane or I directly, and then we can distribute to the
Okay.
board prior to the meeting.
So that would be, if I do my math correctly, we produce those by the 15th of April. Well, when you finish your taxes, the 16th of April. If we can have those to Jane and Rochelle by the 16th of April. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And then they'll send them to us. We can look at them over the weekend and be ready on Tuesday, the 21st.
Okay.
Okay?
And.
So do we need to change the time, Rochelle, do we need to change the time of the board meeting if they're gonna start earlier to go into executive session?
I can just post another meeting. So I'll post the 8 a.m. meeting for the discussion, and then we can just keep the 9 a.m. as the normal meeting, if that works.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is that okay with everybody? 8 o'clock?
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And having advanced thought, we can be, prepared to have a good discussion.
And so what do we're
Sounds
giving
good.
advanced thoughts to Jane? Is that what I heard there?
Yeah, by the
Yep.
by the 16th.
The 16th.
And then it's just an assembly, and then on Friday, they could distribute them to us. We could review them over the weekend and Monday and be prepared for Tuesday morning.
Jane and John, you've gonna find some information for me, hopefully.
Jane's gonna do it and I'm gonna look at it. But
Okay.
I'm,
Okay,
and
good. Okay,
that's about, yeah.
all right, great.
If there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Al. Second,
Second.
I'll second.
thank you. All right, guys, thank you. It was a good,
Thanks, everyone.
and ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Patty.
All right, we'll see you.
All right, bye.
Okay.